Hi, my name is Jordan Field,
And I'm Braden Barwick.
and welcome to our online teaching segment of Arete, a part of the Peter process, which we're going to delve into today. So the teaching outline of this online segment is to first define Arete. We want to go over the modern definition, the historical definition, its context within the Peter process, and we have some interactive learning activities for you to do to help you deepen your understanding of this concept. And then we're going to go into applying Arete, and we're going to get into a little game that teaches all of us about how to apply Arete into our daily lives and how to embody it as a disciple and as men and women in business. And the goals of this online teaching segment are to inspire an attitude of excellence, to provide clarity into the Peter process, to communicate how Arete is a crucial part of the Peter process, and engage all of you mentally and physically by provoking thought on this topic.
So to give further context into the Peter process and where Arete fits in, we're going to read 2 Peter 1, 3-8. His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life, through our knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and goodness. Through these he has given us his very great and precious promise, so that through them you may participate in divine nature, having escaped the corruption in the world caused by evil desires. For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection, and to mutual affection love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. As previously discussed in the other Peter process video segments, we went over the concept of the promise, the promise that is given to represent God and live in his presence forever. We then moved on to partnership and the partnership we have with God and bringing us his promise of living in divine nature with God. Following that, we stepped into the acceptance of his partnership through having faith and living out this partnership with God.
So getting into defining Arete, we're going to go over the modern definition and the historical definition to get a greater context of what this word actually means for us in today's world.
So now looking at the modern definition, essentially we're looking at the aggregate of qualities as a valor, virtue, making up good character. This is found in Webster's Dictionary online. To dive into this definition, we have to look at the words valor. What does that mean? Valor is defined as boldness or determination in the face of danger, whereas virtue is the moral excellence and goodness of righteousness. Other definitions of this describe Arete as excellence of any kind, so that can be in any pursuit, whether that's athletically or intellectually or morally or physically, as well as it is known as just moral virtue. Now we're going to watch a video that explains further the definition of excellence in our modern world. This was made by a good friend of ours who is very talented in YouTube.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to another Optimize Plus One. In our last few Plus Ones, we've been chatting about reaching the peak of our potential. What's the alternative? Well, did you know that the Latin root of the word mediocre literally means to get stuck in the middle of a rugged mountain? Yep, medius equals middle, acris equals rugged mountain. Mediocrity. That's not where we want to get stuck. So, how do we make it through that midway point and summit the peak of our potential? Well, let's open up our thesaurus for some clues. We'll start with synonyms for mediocre: ordinary, average, middling, middle of the road, uninspired, undistinguished, indifferent, unexceptional, unexciting, unremarkable, run-of-the-mill, pedestrian, prosaic, lackluster, forgettable, amateur, amateurish. Those are all great ways to get stuck. But guess what? There's only one antonym for mediocre. Can you guess what it is? Excellent. Yep, that's the ticket, excellence. When we hit those inevitable tough spots on the rugged mountain that is our heroic quest, we need to show up with excellence. We need to do our best. And you may recall the Greeks had a word for that: arete. It's the best way to high-five your inner daimon as you joyfully summit. Let's do that, one step at a time, right up to the peak of that rugged mountain. +1, +1, and +1.
Thank you so much, Brian. And as we get back to our presentation here, we're going to be talking about excellence as applied in our world. And so we came up with a little game here, and once we've gone through describing the rules of it, we'd ask you to press pause and then join back with us once you are done the activity. So, first things first, we want you to think of one person that embodies the word excellence. So you could be someone in your life, a friend, a family member, or someone throughout history. Then we want you to think of one characteristic that really encompasses the word excellence. And this could be any sort of description that describes excellence. And then we'd like you to think of one business that you would describe as excellence. And once you have thought of all of these three things, compare the similarities and difference between the person, the characteristic, and the business, and see what you come up with. If you see patterns, if you see areas where two are similar and one is dropped off, and just take a note of this and see how excellence looks in your world. So the historical context of arete is, it actually is an ancient Greek term, as we've already gone over, and would be applied to anything of superior excellence. It is a word of very wide significance in Greek writings, and any excellence of a person or of a thing, or any sort of endowment, property, or quality that's really applied to this is what arete means. The meaning changes depending on what it describes as well, and we see some early uses of the word in Homer's Iliad. Arete is used to describe the heroes, so Helen of Troy, Achilles, and Hector. These are all people who are described as being excellent at what they do, and that shows the versatility of the word, as it can be used to describe a person, a thing, a process even. Plato explains this idea of arete in the allegory of a cave, how when we look at the shadows in the wall, we see but a mere reflection of what is true, and when you actually turn around and are able to see at least reality for more what it is than just a bunch of shadows, then you are starting to experience and embody that term arete, and so that's where we also see it in this ancient context. Aristotle actually said, "We are what we do, what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." And this really embodies the ancient and the current view of excellence, that it's lived out, that it's not just an idea, but it actually affects things.
The context of the Peter process, where we see the word excellence being used, is underlined here, as you can see. So the first use of it is life and godliness. It shows that our pursuit as Christians and followers of Christ is to pursue a life of purity and moral excellence in that. It also shows that we are called to know His glory and excellence. So it shows that God is fully excellent and perfect in that, and we are in pursuit of that. It also shows later in the verse making every effort to pursue virtue and moral virtue, both as excellence as well as valor. We can see this as just being throughout the Peter process being laid out as what our call is to pursue the glory and excellence that the Lord has laid out for us. This begs the question, though, of how do we live in God's glory and excellence, and what does it mean to make every effort? As we progress in the next few slides, we're going to tackle some of those questions. And to round off this section of the presentation, I just wanted to share a quote by Frederick W. Robertson that I think really sums up what we've just shared. It says, "What the world calls virtue is a name and a dream without Christ. The foundation of all human excellence must be laid deep in the blood of the Redeemer's cross and in the power of His resurrection." This is important to remember because the pursuit of excellence, the way that God lays it out as in His glory and excellence, will never be achievable as humans and as Christians pursuing that. And we must remember that our only pursuit of excellence and of this must lay in the Redeemer laying down his life for us to take our place in that excellence.
And this is a great segue into how do we embody Arete as disciples, as men and women looking to follow Jesus. And so we want to go to a verse in Philippians to help understand what this means. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And so this brings us to how do we live out this excellence as a disciple? And there's a couple readings that we've actually interacted with that have helped us understood what this means. So first is a devotional called Christ is Our Exemplar. And this is a devotional that really helps us understand what it means. It was written by Charles Spurgeon, and it talks about how in deed and thought we must have Christ as the example in all that we do. So in all means attitude, we see this reflected again, and Gary Schmidt talks about how we must follow in action both great and small. He uses the examples in this chapter to really emphasize that we can't do anything too small or too large. We got to just follow Christ in every action. And it's very similar to the Why I'm Not a World Changer article, actually. And this is something that is super applicable when we start thinking about excellence. And it goes back to even that Aristotle quote that excellence is a decision every single day to live it out. It's not something where you accomplish it once, or like you do one thing that is maybe excellence, but that doesn't embody the word arete. Arete means a life lived out in excellence. And this is what all three of these readings are getting at. Christ is an exemplar, all means attitude, and Why I'm Not a World Changer. How we can use this excellence both in business, but even more importantly in our walk of discipleship. And it really helps us understand in a modern context how to live it out. So how do we do it specifically as men and women in the business field?
We use an article written by Forbes called Redefining Excellence for Today's World. This is an interesting article that really lays out, it's a secular article that lays out what business sees as excellent, and it really relates a lot to what we've previously talked about in our other sections of this presentation. It initially states that excellence starts with having a clear end state you wish to achieve and relentlessly pushing towards it. This is similar to what we see in the Peter process, where it talks about making every effort to pursue goodness and godliness in our lives. It's an interesting parallel that we see between business and our personal lives. It also mentions knowing when to push on, doing well and consistently refining as you move forward, and taking ownership, at least partially, when the best is not achieved. I think these are all important things that both relate to our personal lives and business in everything that we do. Similarly, excellence is also revealed through language and action. It's revealed through how we interact with others, who we surround ourselves with, our presence in the moment, and active listening. Once again, like I said, these are all from a business-oriented, business-focused article, but all these things can be applied to a Christian's personal walk in pursuing their relationship with Christ and pursuing godliness, as well in business for non-Christian people as well. That Arete is not just only embodied in Christian individuals, but it's more of a pursuit that can be achieved.
Yeah, and we see this also in the Making a Stick chapter. The story in chapter 2 about Mike Ebersold and his call to the hospital. And we see that through reflection and careful contemplation about what's going on in one's life, we see excellence is achieved. It's not necessarily through a one-time action, but it's through a commitment to continually think and better yourself. And we see this throughout the story as he helps the poor man who got shot, and he goes in and helps him recover.
Another article that we read was Reclaiming Excellence as a Christian Virtue by Michael Zigarelli. The article really talked about how excellence in Christian business and just even in Christian circles has been a lost virtue that we haven't taken seriously and embodied in our actions. In response to this article, I think it raises a lot of points of other parts of our Christian walk that we are called to. I believe that we're called to whatever we do it for the glory of God. I think that's both in our relationships, but I think as well as in our financial dealings and in our business. Similarly, I think our role is to strive consistently towards our potential, towards a goal of doing things as well as we can, no matter what we're being paid or who's watching. I think this is something that can be embodied into any career path, any place in life that we are. I think whether we're a CEO of a top performing company or a janitor at a school, I think it really doesn't matter. But it's more about our strive towards committing towards excellence in whatever we do. Another point that comes out of this article, I think, is being remarkable. The definition of remarkable is literally being remarked about when you're not in the presence of that person. I think doing actions and being virtuous in everything that you do to pursue being remarkable is important as well. Another important thing is to check your motivations. I think especially as Christians, what is our motivations of pursuing excellence? Is it to be noticed or seen, or is it an internally processed decision and journey that we are taking on? And finally, I think the most important thing to recognize is excellence is a direction, not a destination. This must always be kept in mind of not achieving something that is excellent, but always continuing to strive and improve.
Yeah, so going over now some practical business implications, and we came up with 3 words to really describe what we think excellence looks like in the business field, and this is quality, compassion, and service. I was recently talking to a director of sales for a natural health company out in Toronto, and the man I was talking to, his name's Joe Dodig, and he gave me this advice. He told me this story. He said, within the sales field, there's lots of people who will go out, make tons of calls, go to tons of people, and they do really well. They hustle hard, and they do well. But he said what he's seen, the people who have the most success, they genuinely care about the people they're dealing with. They take extra time on each call. They ask how the person's doing and view not so much as a means to money, but the sales interaction as a relationship. And we thought this really embodies what it means to be excellence, to view the business world as relationships, not necessarily as a means to an end, but to genuinely care. And from that comes quality, compassion, service, and therefore Arete.
So now I think it's important to have our response. We can learn all of this information and let it go in one ear and out the other. But I think it's important to really internalize and to really take into consideration, what does Arete look like in my life? So for this, I would like everybody to pause the video and to really think through these 2 questions. So what? What does this information that we've learned really mean? And what actionable steps can I take to integrate Arete in my actions and thoughts? I encourage you to take 2 minutes to do this and then join us back for our final slide. And me and Jordan would like to thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. And please leave a comment below and subscribe to this channel for more content. My brother Braden here actually has a wide variety of successful business entrepreneurial stories, and he will elaborate on those in further videos.
Yeah, we look forward to sharing more.
Embody excellence, everyone. Have a good day.